Most job interviews don't start with a fireplace, a whisper, and a chair that breathes under you. But mine did. The elevator didn't ding when it arrived on the 33rd floor. It sighed. Softly, like it knew where I was going better than I did. There were no signs, no lights. Just a matte black door with the word obsidian carved into the wood. Unpainted and unapologetic. I reached for the handle, but the door opened before I could touch it. A warm breath of air rolled out, laced with the scent of cedarwood and something spiced, like winter tea with a hint of danger. Inside was dim, lit only by a low-burning fireplace set into black stone. The shadows didn't flicker. They pooled. And sitting across the room, legs crossed and posture perfect, was a man who looked like he belonged in a Renaissance painting. If that painting was commissioned by someone rich, dangerous, and a little bored. "Come in," he said, without looking up. I did. The floor was soft beneath my boots, some kind of velvet rug that muffled my steps. The chair in front of his desk looked antique, carved like it belonged to a cathedral. I sat, and immediately regretted it. The seat was warm, too warm, and it exhaled. I didn't flinch, just crossed my legs and stared at him. He looked up slowly, like turning pages in an old book. His eyes were dark, not just in color, but in mood. Thoughtful, amused, and so sharp, I felt them carve little question marks into my skin. "You must be Sophia," he said. "And you're Geoffrey?" I asked, only slightly sarcastic. One corner of his mouth lifted. Geoffrey, with a G. "But I allow for American adjustments. How kind of you." The smirk widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. His desk had nothing on it. No laptop. No files. Just an inkwell and a single sheet of paper with my name written on it in script that looked hand-drawn with blood. Probably not blood. Probably. "I won't ask the usual questions," he said. "We don't have time." "It's midnight," I pointed out. "Technically, we have all the time in the world." He tilted his head, and the fire behind him flared slightly. "I like that," he murmured. "You twist moments like thread." I shrugged. Occupational hazard. I write copy and survive client meetings. Words are all I've got. His fingers tapped once on the desk, as if testing the word survive. "Why did you accept this interview?" "Because you pay well," I said flatly. "And I like weird." He leaned forward, just a little. "And are you afraid of the dark?" "No." I met his gaze. "Should I be?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood, slow and precise. He was tall, lean, and moved like something coiled. Elegant, but always a breath away from lashing out. "I need someone temporary," he said, pacing now, his voice dipping into something just shy of a purr. "Someone unbound. Someone who won't ask too many questions." "And yet here I am," I said, already asking. He stopped, turned toward me. The firelight cast one side of his face in sharp gold, the other in deep shadow. "You're the first one," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "who didn't ask for more." I raised a brow. "More what?" He smiled. "And that," he said, "makes me want to give you everything." Silence settled between us, rich and unnerving. Then he extended a hand. I didn't take it. "I'll need you at 7 a.m., he added casually, dropping the hand like it didn't matter. "Sharp? For what?" He walked past me, already heading into the shadows behind the desk. "To begin." "What else?" And then, he was gone. Not out the door, just gone. I stood slowly, looked at the chair one last time, still warm, still breathing, and left the office without saying goodnight, because I had a feeling he already knew how I said goodbye. Obsidian Studio didn't look like the kind of place where dark things happened. It was white and black, sleek and silent, the kind of place you'd expect an art collective to shoot perfume ads or meditate between deadlines. Modern furniture in impossible shapes, huge abstract paintings that looked like brushstrokes were fighting, and walls that either absorbed sound or refused to echo. There was no music, no office chatter, just the soft hum of perfectly tuned lighting, and an occasional sip of espresso from somewhere unseen. And eyes. I always felt like there were eyes. "Morning, sunshine?" A voice to my left broke the silence. I turned to see a man leaning against a table, arms crossed, grinning like someone who'd already broken 3 rules before breakfast. "Frank," he said, "lead designer. Don't let the title fool you. I mostly babysit interns and argue about kerning." "Sophia," I replied, matching his smirk. "Temporary assistant. I mostly make coffee and survive passive aggression." He liked that. I could tell. He pushed off the table and walked beside me, gesturing toward a desk that had been hastily cleared. "Your kingdom," he said. "All hail the Queen of Logistics." I dropped my bag. "Where's the rest of the team?" He rolled his eyes dramatically. "Oh, they're around, just quiet. They get twitchy when the boss is in one of his moods." I didn't ask who the boss was. I knew. Even if I hadn't seen him since the interview, his presence buzzed in the walls like static. Speaking of twitchy, Frank leaned closer. "That guy by the printers? Matt. Coordination. Sweet guy. Real golden retriever energy. Avoid eye contact unless you want a sandwich and a poem written about your hair." I turned. Too late. Matt was already walking toward us, smile bright enough to light the whole floor. "Hi," he said, voice just slightly too loud for the silence around us. "You must be Sophia. I'm Matt. If you need anything, literally anything, I'm your guy." His eyes were wide and soft and just a little too open. "Thanks," I said, shaking his hand. "I'll keep that in mind." "Do." He nodded earnestly. "Really. We take care of each other here. This place, it's different, but in a good way, right?" He looked at Frank for backup. Frank shrugged. "Sure. Different. In a way." Matt laughed a little too long, then excused himself, cheeks pink. "He's harmless," Frank said as soon as Matt disappeared behind a door labeled Conceptual Sync. "But watch that space. He's the kind who falls fast and hard." "I can handle fast," I said. "Hard, too." "Depending on the day," Frank snorted. "I like you already." The hours passed strangely. Time moved normally, but I didn't feel it the same way. Every task came with a sense of being monitored, like someone was just out of sight, watching to see how I'd respond to every little detail. Emails had no sender IDs, only initials. G. Calendar invites appeared without sound. Twice, I turned my head thinking someone had said my name, but no one was there. By noon, the espresso machine had learned my name. Or maybe I'd just given up trying to understand the logic of this place. I caught Matt watching me 3 separate times, once with concern, once with something like admiration, and once with something too warm to name. I caught Frank watching everyone. Nothing escaped him. And me? I was starting to feel like I'd wandered onto the set of a dream that didn't belong to me. Everything was just a little too curated, too crisp, too behaved, until someone dropped a mug. It shattered on the tile like a gunshot. Every head in the room turned in sync, fast, silent, unnatural, no words, just frozen panic. Then, slowly, like a current passing through water, everyone relaxed. Except me, and Frank. "Yeah," he muttered. "You felt that too, huh?" "What was that?" He didn't answer, just walked away. By 6:55 p.m., the office had mostly cleared out. Matt stopped by my desk one last time. "Heading home?" he asked. I thought I might stay a little longer. Still settling in. He hesitated. "Don't stay too late. It gets weird after hours." "Define weird." He smiled, but it was tight. "You'll know it when you see it." At exactly 7:01 p.m., my phone buzzed. New message. Unknown number, stay after hours. Come alone. That was it. No name. No signature. But I knew who it was from. The warmth on the back of my neck told me before the screen did. "Geoffrey." The lights on the 33rd floor dimmed the moment the elevator doors closed behind me. Not turned off. Dimmed, like the building knew I was coming. Like it was preparing for someone else entirely. I made my way down the long hallway, the echo of my footsteps swallowed by the plush obsidian carpeting. The same door stood at the end. No handle, no sign, just a quiet pressure in the air urging me forward. It opened before I touched it. Again, inside, the room hadn't changed. No windows, no clocks, no sense of time at all. The only light came from the fire in the wall, low, steady, casting soft shadows across the bookshelves that stretched up to nowhere. The warmth was immediate, dense, like stepping into someone's breath. And there he was. Leaning against the far side of the fireplace, Geoffrey looked less like a CEO and more like a story told in candlelight. Sleeves rolled to his forearms, collar open, eyes half-lidded, like he'd been waiting for centuries but had nothing better to do. "You came," he said, like he hadn't sent the message. "You called," I replied, stepping inside. He nodded toward the armchair across from his. "Sit." I hesitated. The chair was the same one from the interview, high-backed, carved, and softly exhaling warm air like it had opinions. Still, I sat. "You're not like the others," he said, folding his arms. "Most people don't sit in that chair twice. Maybe they have better instincts." He laughed, a soft, melodic sound that didn't match the room. Maybe. Or maybe they just want too much. I tilted my head. "And what is it you think I want?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved toward me slowly, each step measured like choreography. But he didn't get too close. Just close enough for the firelight to catch the glint of something behind his gaze, something not entirely human. "You're curious," he said, "but not greedy. Cautious, but not fearful. And you're flattering me," I said dryly. "That's suspicious." He chuckled again, then walked past me, trailing one hand along the edge of my desk, his fingers whispering across the polished surface. "Do you believe in intuition, Sophia?" He asked. "I believe in coffee. And rent. Intuition hasn't paid my bills lately." He turned toward me, his smile lazy. "Yet you listened to it when you took this job." I opened my mouth to answer, and froze. His fingers had brushed the corner of my laptop. Just a touch, but the screen flickered. Briefly, the lights above pulsed once, like they'd blinked. He noticed me noticing. "You're not scared," he said softly. "No, you should be." I met his eyes. "If you were going to hurt me, you would have already..." He didn't move, didn't speak. But the air changed. Thicker, slower, like I was underwater. He stepped closer, just once, close enough that I could smell that strange spice again. Amber and night. "And if I said, 'I'm not sure what I want from you?'" he asked. "I'd say, 'Join the club.'" A pause. He smiled, genuinely this time. "Good," he murmured. "Stay uncertain." "It suits you." He turned, walked back toward the fireplace, and picked up something from the small side table. A porcelain cup. White, minimal, perfectly shaped. Steam curled from it. "I remembered you don't take sugar," he said, placing it gently on the desk in front of me. "I don't remember telling you that." "You didn't." I stared at the cup, then at him. And in the next moment, he was gone. No door, no footsteps, just smoke curling in the fire and a fresh cup of coffee still warm on my desk. I ignored the message. It had come at the usual time, 7:01 p.m. sharp. Same sender. Same eerie simplicity. "Come to the office. Tonight. Alone." But I didn't go. I told myself it was a power play. That maybe if I didn't show up, he'd stop toying with me. That maybe I was setting a boundary. That maybe I just wanted to see what he'd do if I said no. 8 a.m. the next morning, I got my answer. The elevator chimed for the first time since I started working there. Not sighed. Not glowed. Chimed. Everyone stopped. Even the espresso machine paused mid-grind. Footsteps echoed across the studio floor. Clean, measured, deliberate. He walked in like gravity had bent to escort him. Geoffrey, in full daylight. He wore black from collar to heel, of course. His hair perfectly in place, face unreadable. His eyes scanned the room like he was bored by how easy it was to command attention. He didn't smile, didn't blink, just said one word. Sophia. And then he turned and walked toward the conference room like it was already his. I followed. Because of course I did. Inside, the glass walls offered a perfect view of the frozen office beyond, every employee pretending not to look while absolutely looking. Frank leaned back in his chair, openly sipping his coffee. Matt stood, tense, shoulders locked. Geoffrey stood with his back to me. "You didn't come," he said. I crossed my arms. "Congratulations." "You noticed." He turned slowly, eyes sharp, like he was trying to decide what to do with me. "You broke the pattern," he said. "You don't break patterns." Maybe I got tired of being summoned like a stray. He stepped forward. "You're not a stray. I'm not a pet either." His mouth twitched. Not a smile. Something darker. "Then, what are you?" "I'm temporary, remember?" I said. "Your word." He stopped. "Just for a breath." "That's not what I meant." I laughed once, bitter. Funny how meanings shift when they stop being convenient. There was a long silence. Outside, no one moved. It felt like the air had thickened again, just like in his office. Only this time, it wasn't just between us. "You want control," I said finally, low but clear. His gaze locked onto mine. "I want you to react." I took a step forward. "Then stop playing games. Games are the only language people understand." "I'm not... people..." That stopped him again. Just for a second. Then he crossed the space between us in 2 strides, and before I could think, before I could breathe, he kissed me. It wasn't soft or gentle. It was heat and teeth and frustration. It was him trying to grab something intangible and make it real. A challenge disguised as a kiss. And I kissed him back. For 1 second. Just one. Then, I pulled away. Breath sharp in my chest, fingers clenched at my sides. He watched me, lips slightly parted, a faint flush in his usually pale cheeks. "That wasn't love," I said quietly. He tilted his head. "That," he replied, voice low, "was curiosity." Behind him, through the glass wall, I saw Matt. Staring, not moving, and not surprised. His hands were balled into fists. And for the first time I felt the burn of something close to shame. Not for the kiss, but for the effect it had on everyone else. Geoffrey stepped back. His expression was unreadable again, but something behind his eyes had shifted. Not softened. No. Just recalibrated. "Back to work, Miss Hale," he said, his voice cool now. "We all have roles to play." He turned and walked out. Everyone in the office suddenly remembered how to move. I stayed where I was for another minute. Matt didn't. He left the room before I could meet his eyes. She didn't knock. She didn't wait for an introduction, or a badge, or even gravity's permission. She arrived. The glass doors of Obsidian Studio blew open on their hinges. Literally, the handles clanged. And a woman stepped through the entrance like she'd been summoned by thunder. Tall, pale, impossibly elegant, silver eyes, and a smile like it knew too much. She wore all white, not cream or ivory. White, so blinding against the studio's minimalist blacks that it felt like a declaration of war. No one moved. Not Frank, who'd just been arguing with a junior designer over font weights. Not Matt, who had dropped his stylus and didn't even bother to pick it up. People froze because they knew who she was. I didn't, but I could guess. She walked like she used to own the place, and maybe, at one time, she did. Her heels didn't make noise. Her hair didn't sway. Her presence simply pressed itself into the air and demanded it make room. Her gaze skimmed the room like she was searching for a weak spot. Then it landed on me. And stayed. I didn't blink. Neither did she. We stared across the open studio, her in white, me in black, like some twisted game of chess where neither of us had the rules, but both of us had already declared checkmate. She turned first, but not like she was giving in. More like she was inviting me to follow. And I did. Because of course I did. The elevator was already open. She stepped inside and waited without looking back. I hesitated at the threshold. "Afraid?" she asked, not unkindly. "No." "Good." The doors closed behind me. The ride was silent for 3 floors. Then she spoke. "He's a flame, dear," she said, voice like velvet soaked in venom. "And you think you're not flammable?" I didn't answer right away. She turned her head, just slightly. Her silver eyes glinted like blades in the overhead light. "I know what you're thinking," she added. "You think he's different with you. That you've cracked the riddle no one else could. That he's softening. Maybe he is." She laughed softly. "Oh, darling. He's not becoming human. You're becoming attached." I looked straight at her. "Are you here to warn me?" "No." Her smile widened. "I'm here to see if he's worth winning back." The elevator dinged. Floor 33. Of course. The doors opened. But she didn't move. "I used to think I could hold him," she said, almost conversationally, "but he was always slipping between my fingers. Like heat. Or smoke. You can't own fire. You can only watch it burn." And with that, she stepped out. Gone. Like she'd never been there at all. I stood in the elevator a little longer. The fire metaphor shouldn't have gotten to me. But it did. Because I'd kissed Geoffrey. And for 1 second, I had thought maybe I was immune. Maybe the way he looked at me, challenged me, meant I wasn't like the rest. But the way Mia looked at me, like she'd seen me before I even saw myself, it made something twist in my stomach. I stepped out and walked back to my desk, nodding numbly to Frank, ignoring Matt's gaze. Everything looked the same. The studio, the people, the light. But I'd changed. Just a little. Like the smell of smoke in your hair after you've already left the fire. Matt stopped me by the coffee machine. It was late. The office had mostly emptied. Even Frank had gone home, mumbling something about deadlines and bad lighting. But Matt stayed. And now, he stood in front of me like he was preparing for a fight he didn't want to win. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. I glanced at the empty hallway. "I'm listening." His jaw tightened. "I've seen this before. The way he looks at people. The way he gets under your skin." "I'm fine. You're not." His voice dropped. "Sophia, the last girl who worked this job, she disappeared. No goodbye, no transfer, no trace. That stopped me." I stared at him. "You think he did something to her?" "I think she stopped resisting him," Matt said quietly, "and he stopped needing her." I hated how cold that made me feel. "How do you know all this?" I asked. His eyes flicked toward the elevator. "Because I used to worship him too." I didn't say anything, just walked away. Not because I didn't believe him, but because part of me did. Geoffrey's office was even darker than usual. The fire burned low and sullen, like it was mirroring someone's mood. He didn't look up when I walked in, but he knew. "You're late," he said. I shut the door behind me. I didn't know we had a schedule. He finally turned toward me, slow and deliberate. "Everything here has a rhythm, including you." I stepped closer. "That's the thing, isn't it? You need people to follow your rhythm. You need them to admire you." His expression didn't change, but something in the room did. Air pressure, temperature, mood. "I need people to behave," he said. "To respect the order I create." "No," I said. "You need people to love you." He stood still, watching me. "You need their eyes on you. Their energy, their need." "You're oversimplifying." "I'm not wrong." He moved fast. 1 second, he was across the room. The next, inches from me. You think I do this for affection? He asked, voice low. You think I want to be liked? I think you want to be needed, I said. Because if they don't need you, what are you? His hands clenched at his sides. If I wanted, I could have your name carved into stone by morning, he said. I could have people begging to be near you, dying to be you. And you'd still be alone, I said sharply, because it's all fake, all borrowed. None of it real. He stared at me like he could see inside my skull, like he wanted to crack it open and rewrite the words I just said. I need you to stop resisting, he said finally. Then stop giving me reasons to... Silence. The fire flickered once, then dimmed. You're not weak because people don't love you, Geoffrey, I whispered. You're weak because you need them to... His jaw clenched. For a second, I thought he might shout, or vanish, or burn the room down. Instead, he stepped back, just slightly, and that's when the door flew open. Get away from her! Matt? Breathless, angry, pale. He looked at Geoffrey like he expected to see a monster. Geoffrey turned, slow and calm, and faced him with a look I'd never seen before. Not rage, not menace, disappointment. Matthew, he said softly, you're not supposed to be here. You don't get to tell her what to do, Matt snapped. You don't own her. I stepped forward. Matt, I saw it, Sophia, he said, eyes wide. I saw how he looks at you, like he's waiting to devour you. Geoffrey tilted his head. And what do you think you're doing right now? That shut Matt up for half a second, but I didn't let it hang. Matt, I said, quietly but firmly, I don't need saving. He looked stunned, but he's manipulating you. I nodded. Probably. And he kissed you. Yes. Matt blinked, pain flashing across his face. Then why? Because you don't see me, I said, suddenly exhausted. You see your version of me. The girl you imagined I was. The girl you thought needed protecting. I stepped past him, toward the door. Geoffrey didn't follow. Matt just stood there, lost. I didn't look back, because for the first time I wasn't sure who I was more afraid of, the demon who wanted my resistance, or the man who wanted my obedience. He didn't call for me that night. No message, no summons, just silence. And still, I went. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't submission. It was something quieter, something in between. The door to the 33rd floor was unlocked when I arrived. The fire in his office was burning low, casting long, sleepy shadows across the room. He sat in his chair, not regal, not coiled like usual. Just there, elbows on knees, head tilted back, eyes closed. He didn't open them when I entered. I wasn't expecting you, he said softly. I wasn't planning to come. Silence again. But it wasn't tense. It was full. I sat across from him without asking. The chair didn't breathe this time. Or maybe it did, and I just didn't notice anymore. Why didn't you summon me? I asked. His eyes opened. Because I didn't want you to come for the wrong reasons. Like fear? He nodded. Or anger. Or habit. I leaned back, letting the warmth of the room settle in my skin. Do demons get lonely? I asked. He looked at me for a long time. Only when we've tasted connection. Have you? His mouth twisted, something like a smile, but smaller. Sadder. I thought I had. A few times. But it was always about power, desire, obsession. No one ever saw me. I see you, I said. Not a challenge. Not a confession. Just a truth between us. His gaze darkened, but not in danger. In ache. He stood and walked toward me, slowly, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he moved too fast. When he reached me, he knelt beside the chair. Quiet. Careful. Then, with fingers softer than I expected, he touched my face. Just one side. His thumb brushed my cheek like it had been waiting its whole life to do that. I didn't move away. "You're the only one who hasn't tried to worship me," he said. "Maybe because you don't need it." He smiled. Small, real. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "Neither do I." That seemed to be enough. He leaned in, slow and unsure, giving me time to stop him. I didn't. Our lips met, not with heat, not with hunger, but with a strange kind of reverence, like we were testing a possibility neither of us had believed in before. The kiss deepened, not because we rushed, but because neither of us pulled away. His hands never demanded. They asked, and mine answered. He stood, reaching for my hand, and I followed him, past the desk, past the bookshelves, to a room behind the fireplace I hadn't known existed. There was a bed, simple, dark, the sheets cool and soft like smoke. We moved slowly, like he was memorizing me, not conquering me. There were no contracts, no magic. Us, and silence. But it wasn't empty. It held every unspoken word, every breath between us. It said, "This is new. This is fragile. Don't run." And we didn't. We stayed. Together. No roles, no control. Just warmth. Touch. Trust. And when we finally lay still, hearts steady, hands tangled between us, he whispered into my hair, "You're not mine." I looked up at him, heart full and strange. "But I want to be yours." The fire was out when I entered his office. That was the first sign. Geoffrey stood by the empty hearth, unmoving, back to me. The air felt colder than usual, still laced with spice, but heavier, like something ancient and waiting. And she was there, Mia, perched on the edge of his desk, like she owned the place, like she still owned him. She turned as I stepped in, and her silver eyes glittered like they had won already. "Well," she said smoothly, "this feels familiar. Don't worry, I was just leaving." She held something in her hand, small, metallic. It pulsed with a dull red glow. Geoffrey didn't move, didn't even look at her. His gaze was locked on the object in her palm. "What is that?" I asked. Mia stood and crossed to him. She held it up between them, like an offering. "Restoration," she said, "of what you were, of what you deserve." Then her eyes flicked to me. "But it comes with a price." I already knew. "You choose this," she said to Geoffrey, her voice smooth and sweet, "and she forgets you. Completely. The bond breaks. The hunger returns. And you become what you were always meant to be." Geoffrey finally took the object. It looked like a coin at first, but it throbbed in his hand, alive with something that didn't belong to this world. Mia stepped back, waiting. I couldn't speak. My throat tightened, fingers cold. He stared at it, and stared, and said nothing. The silence stretched too long, too loud. I found my voice. "Say something." He didn't. "You're not even going to ask me?" I said, heat rising in my chest. "You'll just stand there while someone else decides what you are?" His jaw flexed. "I could make you safe," Mia whispered. "You wouldn't need to chase affection anymore. You'd be adored, feared, worshipped again, and alone," I said. "Completely and forever." He closed his eyes. Tight, as if the weight of every century was pressing into him at once. "Geoffrey," I said, stepping forward, "I don't want to be your prize. I want to be your person." His eyes snapped to mine, not glowing, not cold, just tired, just human. And then he crushed the artifact in his fist. It didn't crack. It shattered. The sound was deafening. Air snapped around us like static lightning. The walls shuddered. A rush of wind spun through the room, sucking the fire from the hearth and snuffing it into smoke. Mia shrieked and stumbled backward, her perfect form flickering, twisting. "You fool," she hissed. But he was already stepping between us. "You offered me power," he said to her. but I've finally tasted something stronger. Her eyes narrowed. Weakness? No, he said. Choice. The coin fragments in his hand disintegrated into dust, and the light vanished. Mia stood silently for a moment. Then she looked at me. Not angry, not threatened, just curious. Interesting, she said softly. We'll see how long it lasts. And then she was gone. No door, no sound, just absence. I turned to Geoffrey. He looked wrecked, but free. He ran a hand through his hair, then stared down at his palm. She was right about one thing, he said quietly. I've never not needed to be needed, until now. I crossed the room and reached for his hand. He let me take it. The warmth was still there. But the pressure? Gone. I'm still not human, he said. I know. And I still want you. I know. He exhaled, slow and deep, like he was learning to breathe again, and in the silence that followed, the fire didn't relight. And it didn't need to. The office felt different, not in the obvious ways. Same walls, same espresso machine, same questionable abstract art that looked like someone had lost a bet with a brush. But the people, they breathed. They laughed. Frank wore sneakers instead of his usual pointed boots, and threw a half-baked congratulations on surviving this hellscape party in the kitchen. Someone brought cupcakes. Someone else tried champagne. No one bowed when Geoffrey walked in, and the sky didn't dim. It was normal, strangely, beautifully normal. Matt was the only one not celebrating. He packed up his things in silence, not looking at me, not saying much. I tried. Twice. He just smiled, a small, polite one, and handed me a letter before he left. I read it later, tucked between the plants on my windowsill. You never needed me to protect you. You already knew the fire was real, and you walked in anyway. He didn't sign it, didn't need to. Geoffrey didn't call for me that night, but I found him anyway, on the rooftop of the building, leaning against the railing like he was trying to memorize the city lights. The wind tugged at his shirt. His sleeves were rolled, his expression unguarded. He looked, not smaller, but more still, more his own. You look like someone who's been kicked out of a godhood seminar, I said gently. He turned, smiled, softly. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wasn't sure you'd be up here and not lurking behind a bookshelf. He chuckled, low in his chest. Old habits die. Slowly, we stood in silence for a while. Below us, the city kept pulsing. Alive, unbothered. I've been watching them, he said finally. My employees. For the first time, they're making decisions I didn't influence, laughing at jokes I didn't insert into the room. He shook his head. Strange. Humbling. I stepped closer. The wind caught my hair and pulled it across my cheek. You okay with that? He looked at me and didn't look away. I'll always be not human, Sophia, he said. But I'm trying. I nodded. You don't have to be human. He blinked. You just have to be honest. His lips parted like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He took a breath instead and reached out. Not to control, not to summon, just to touch. His fingers slid between mine. It was so simple. So quiet. Do you still want to leave when your contract ends? He asked. There's no contract anymore, I said. Remember? You broke it. He smiled. You could still walk away. I could, I said. But then, who'd argue with you when you try to rearrange the chairs by color psychology again? They needed that pattern. I laughed, and this time, when he kissed me, it wasn't fire or hunger or tension. It was sunrise. It was warmth without heat. A promise, not a demand. We stayed like that for a while. Just stayed. Later, after the lights below started fading, we went back down. Past the silent elevator. Past the now unlocked doors. back into the office. He walked into his once glowing office. The fire pit was dark. He paused beside it. Didn't try to relight it. Didn't raise his hand or summon a flame. He just looked at it, then at me, and smiled. "It doesn't need to burn anymore," he said. I nodded. "Neither do you." We left it like that. Dark, quiet, peaceful. Just as it was always meant to be. And as the first light of morning touched the top of the skyline, I realized something. I had walked into this place thinking I was temporary. And now, I was exactly where I chose to stay.